Lord & Taylor was an American department store chain that opened in 1826 and has now become an e-commerce retailer in 2021. Welcome back to my channel. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you get notified of my latest video. Please hit that like button and leave a suggestion or a comment. You might see that in a future video. Thanks for watching, and now back to our regular scheduled program.
What's the big idea? The savings are huge at Lord & Taylor's big sale. The little white dress, sleek swimwear, spring steps, perfect accessories, a pop of color, and you. Go to lordandtaylor.com to print a special savings offer. It's one really big sale, now through Sunday, only at Lord & Taylor. And don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter.
English-born Samuel Lord started a dry goods business in New York in 1824 and opened the original store that would become Lord & Taylor in 1826 on Catherine Street in what is now Two Bridges, Manhattan. The shop stocked hosiery, misses' wear, and cashmere shawls. His wife's cousin, George Washington Taylor, joined in 1834, and the store was named Lord & Taylor. James S. Taylor, Lord's brother-in-law, replaced George Taylor in 1845. The company erected a new building at Grand and Christie Streets in 1853 and moved into that location the next year. On August 29, 1859, Lord & Taylor opened a second store on Broadway at Grand in the modern-day Soho neighborhood, keeping the older store open. The new store was described as a 5-story marble emporium and was among Broadway's first major new department store. The founder of Lord & Taylor, Mr. Samuel Lord, who had enjoyed decades with his highly successful department store business, retired in 1862. In 1863, Lord & Taylor opens a special section to provide appropriate mourning apparel to the new widows of the Civil War. In 1870, the Broadway location moved just a mile closer to the uptown area into a new building made of cast iron on Broadway and 20th Street. This area was known to New Yorkers as the Ladies' Mile. Throughout the next decade, the department store continued to prosper and to expand, and the management annexed the building that was located to the east of it, and it grew to encompass an area on Forsyth Street. Although added on, it was considered to be a new building. This store was designed by James H. Giles and included one of the first steam-powered passenger elevators. Ladies' Mile Historical District was a prime shopping district in Manhattan, New York City at the end of the 19th century, as department stores there, like Lord & Taylor, represented the first places deemed proper enough for women to shop unchaperoned in the Victorian era, and a new freedom for female consumers. By 1894, the company was fast growing and would open stores on Fifth Avenue in 1903 and 1906. The Fifth Avenue Lord & Taylor store was designed by Starrett and Van Vleck architects. It was opened between 38th and 39th Streets in 1914. It was a founding unit of the Associated Dry Goods, which was an association of independent stores. Lord & Taylor was considered to be its crown jewel. In 1924, Dorothy Shaver joins Lord & Taylor and begins a series of groundbreaking initiatives. In 1945, Dorothy Shaver became the first woman to head a major retail establishment in the United States as president of Lord & Taylor. She opened what is credited as the first ever branch store in Manhasset, New York. Unlike earlier forays into the suburbs that consisted of smaller boutique-style shops, this was a merchandising effort that became the model for modern suburban shopping. The store consisted of 66 individual shops. Many of Lord & Taylor's special services included personal shoppers, which were introduced while Shaver presided. During this period, she introduced the Andrew Geller handwritten logo and the American Beauty rose as icons of the store. Shaver later died in 1959. In 1963, Lord & Taylor debuted its Dog Boutique collection, the first department store line of its kind, offering warm winter coats for pets in wool, cashmere, velvet brocade, and some even lined in mink. That same year, Lord & Taylor installed a new state-of-the-art escalator in their flagship Fifth Avenue store. In 1972, a new chairman and chief executive was elected to the Lord & Taylor department store chain. William Lippincott came on board and was credited for assisting the company in moving past the traditional territory it had previously served. Under his leadership, the store expanded into new states and grew new customer bases in these areas. They opened a Lord & Taylor locations with 4 in the state of Illinois, more in Dallas and Houston, Texas, as well as stores in Atlanta, Georgia. Mr. Lippincott was only with the company for 4 years before a shakeup in management left him ousted from his position in 1976. South Florida alone saw 11 stores open in quick succession. In 1986, May department stores acquired Lord & Taylor. Under May, the majority of the upscale Hahn & Company, Wanamaker's, and Woodward and Lothrop chains were converted to Lord & Taylor. The chain partially withdrew from the oil-shocked Texas and southern Florida markets in 1989 and 1990. Jane Elfers became Lord & Taylor's second female president in June of 2000. Federated Department Stores, now Macy's Inc., acquired May Department Stores on August 30th, 2005. In a move that took advantage of the valuable real estate, Federated announced on March 10, 2006 that 7 conflicting Lord & Taylor locations would either close or downscale into Macy's. On June 22, 2006, NRDC Equity Partners LLC announced that it would purchase Lord & Taylor for $1.2 billion after Federated converted and closed the 7 locations at it. In 2008, NRDC buys Canadian department store Hudson Bay Company for an undisclosed sum and consolidates its ownership of several companies, including Lord & Taylor, under a holding company called Hudson Bay Trading Company. The company says that Lord & Taylor will be in a position to launch 10 to 15 stores throughout Canada. In 2017, Lord & Taylor opened a digital storefront on Walmart.com. Wait, high-end store Lord & Taylor selling at Walmart? One retail analyst even called it crazy, loony madness. In 2018, Lord & Taylor displayed its last ever animated holiday window display, which were joined by "Everything Must Go" signs as well. In 2019, Le Tote plunked down $75 million to buy the iconic department store from HBC, which had leveraged the retailer for its real estate, but didn't do much about its falling sales. The idea was for Le Tote to bring new customers and new ways of retailing to the nearly 200-year-old Lord & Taylor, while the retailer's 45 spiffy locations would provide the site with brick-and-mortar operations. In 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic disrupted Le Tote's plans, forcing layoffs there and at Lord & Taylor in April. In August, Le Tote filed for bankruptcy with plans to permanently close 19 of Lord & Taylor's 38 locations.
For more than a century, the iconic Fifth Avenue store was the epitome of luxury and style in New York City.
Coat, my headscarf, my purse, my gloves. It's all Lord & Taylor.
Now empty clothing racks, cleaned out shelves, and abandoned cash registers are simply a reminder of what the Lord & Taylor flagship store once was. A new year, a new era.
I'm very upset about it. I came down here from Rockland today because I wanted to say goodbye to Lord & Taylor.
To walk out for the last time
was really sad.
Upper East Sider Jean Geller brought to tears as she walked out for the last time.
I just think it's the most elegant store. I've shopped here ever since I moved to New York for 25 years, and I just love it. And I think there's going to be nothing else like this.
Customers grabbing the last of the closeout sale before the doors closed.
Designer dresses, they were like $1,000. They were marked down to $19.99.
Some even taking home pieces of the store like lights, furniture, and signs. Back in 2017, store owners announced they were selling the building to a company called WeWork for $850 million. It provides shared workspaces for startups and entrepreneurs.
I would have hoped it would have lasted longer, but I guess that's just what's happening in New York right now.
Like many big box stores, Lord & Taylor was up against online consumer giants like Amazon and couldn't beat them. To keep up, the company recently launched a digital flagship on Walmart.com.
The doors here were officially locked to the public at around 3 p.m. And as you can see right behind us, store managers left a special final message for its loyal customers here on Fifth Avenue. In Midtown, Rena Roy, CBS 2 News.
Lord & Taylor's parent company says it will close up to 10 more locations. There are currently 45 remaining.
In 2020, the investment firm Saeda Group purchased Lord & Taylor's assets for $12 million and opened up an online-only store in April of 2021. Hey, if you just watched my video, thanks for watching. Hit that like button and please subscribe to Eric C. Productions.